Have you ever felt like someone said something so small and yet you lost it emotionally, mentally, possibly physically? You just went, oh, yeah, that's not random. That is a trigger. Again, welcome back to Unzipped Lips. I'm your hostess, Mary Freshwater, and we're in a space where we get to speak the dead honest truth by unzipping things that are not commonly talked about or talked about in a different way that makes a little bit more sense. And this week's topic is no different with everything else we've talked about. It is a sensitive topic, but I want to talk about it as super simple and frank as possible. Triggers. Emotional triggers are not weakness, they're signals. They are your body, your mind, and your overall being telling you something is wrong. But where do they come from? What are they really? How does it all work? Well, in order to dig in, I want to start off by answering the question, what is a trigger? A trigger typically is emotional reaction that feels outside, like a little bit more dramatic than what the situation really calls for because it connects to unresolved wounds, past trauma, or hidden beliefs about yourself. So let's dig in a little bit more on that. So think about it. I guess the best example is to give you is say someone just walks past you and you just freeze up and you just clam up and you feel like you need to run and run fast because there's something wrong with the situation, yet you are perfectly safe. But that person might have smelled like something that somebody else in your past smelled like. They might have walked in a way that your subconscious recognized as someone who's hurt you in the past. There's a lot of different things that go into this. It is not just, oh, someone was being like harsh with the tone. There's so many little things that can happen depending on who you are and what happened in your past. So triggers live in your nervous system and your subconscious, and they often bypass logic. So this is how you can be in a safe place, but something so small can remind you and dig into something that you didn't know you were still dealing with. And another small example is someone doesn't text you back as quickly as you might like them to. You're suddenly feeling abandoned and not just like it's poor communication. Yeah. I've had to fight that one before. It it doesn't always make sense. But to your nervous system, it's telling you things that may not be true. But your past, you've experienced it. So how a trigger works. I mean, this is simple and complicated. So how it works is they stem into your past experience, especially trauma, where the brain and your body learn to associate danger with a certain word, tone, action, or environment. So this is where I'm saying, like, it doesn't have logic. You can be completely safe and just someone walks might trigger you. Triggers are often tied, especially to childhood trauma, feeling unseen, unheard, not worthy. So, this is where when you're in a relationship, it can get very frictioned, or I guess I got to find a better word for that at the moment, but where you can feel very burdened. Your partner can feel burdened by your triggers if you have unresolved childhood trauma of feeling unheard, unseen, abuse, whatever it is, because your spouse is living in close proximity to you, just like your family did when childhood traumas happened and those wounds happened. And if you haven't resolved the trust issues, the communication issues, the abuse, and you haven't taken that time to heal, your partner can be the ideal perfect person and you can be triggered right and left just because a spoon hit the floor and they just dropped it. And these are our responsibility to heal. And it sucks because you didn't do the damage, especially as a child. You did not choose that trauma or that damage, but you have to resolve it as an adult. Trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Again, a spoon dropping on a floor might make you freeze because you're waiting for what comes next. Because your mom slammed silverware on the floor and came at you screaming, telling you you were worthless and that what you were doing was wrong. It it sucks. Or sadly, I hate to say this, but it happens sometimes where beliefs can cause your own triggers. When you believe you're not good enough, when you have instilled these negative thoughts and mindsets into yourself, you can create your own triggers. That one has me kicking all the time because I've seen it in a couple clients where their own triggers are because of their own beliefs. Those things are so much harder to unpack. And the role of your brain when a trigger happens is, I'm going to be honest, your brain gets hijacked. Our bodies are reacting before we can even think. So your brain is in freeze mode and your body is reacting to the emotions. Everything is saying, screaming, run. Again, it is your nervous system that is triggered. It is your emotional reaction to that. That is what a trigger is. And why triggers happen is the most suckiest thing, but it is because it was a survival tool. So when we were going through abusive situations, when we were going through traumatic situations, we started learning survival tools. And when you learn those survival tools, they get stuck in your nervous system. They get stuck in your body. They get stuck in your subconscious, that you've learned, if you see this, this is about to happen. When this is occurring, this happens. When you see this behavior, this will happen. So when you are subconsciously looking at the world, your subconscious has been programmed to look for those things. And when it sees it, it sends you on high alert that danger is coming. And that's why you get triggered, even when you're in a safe environment, until you can teach your body and your nervous system that you are now safe and you no longer need those survival tools living so close to the surface. Now, don't get me wrong, there are going to be times where those triggers are 100% valid. Listen to them and you run. But they don't need to live so close to the surface anymore. So when we start to talk on how they show up to protect us from repeating the past pain. They're there to stop from what's coming. So when you think about that, they often reveal where healing hasn't happened and where you need to start paying attention to those wounds. Because when you really start to dig in and heal and tell your body you're safe, in that you've made it through this, it's okay, you can be calm now, let's take a deep breath, let's move on. When you start doing that, the triggers start to subside. But you have to do the work. And triggers are, just so you're aware, triggers are not there. They're not there to punish us. They're a roadmap that we need to follow into deeper self awareness, that they're there, that we created these because of what our past has was happening in our past. We just need to really start to become more and more self aware to figure out where all the triggers are. And sadly, some of the triggers you will never know you have a trigger to until it happens. Like how someone walks. This was a big one for me. And I didn't realize it until years, years into recovering and healing and mending myself. And I was out with some friends, and this gentleman walked by, and I just lost it on the inside. I had learned how to control my outward appearance where people couldn't tell when I was losing it on the inside. But my on the inside, I was freaking out just how someone walked past me. I thought I was going to get drugged. I thought all these negative things were coming, and it was just how they walked. Reminded me of someone in my past who had done horrific things to me. And I didn't realize it at first. And it took time to figure it out on what exactly that trigger was in that moment. But this is my next point. It was something I had to do because it is your responsibility to heal your triggers. It is no one else's responsibility to avoid your triggers. So I want to clarify how I'm saying that and why I'm saying that. Because I've had people approach me on how I can help their school become more trigger aware and how they need to not do certain things to prevent triggers. And unfortunately, everyone's triggers are different. So I can't go to a school and say, I'm sorry, but everything you're doing is wrong and you're triggering your students, because that's actually not 100% true. So each individual has different triggers. One person's triggers is not another person's triggers. And when you really sit down with that and understand that your triggers are specific to you, you are the one who has to recognize them and heal them. It sucks because you were not responsible for what happened to cause those triggers, unless they're self inflicted. But generally, you were not responsible for what happened to you for you to be left with this. But it is your responsibility to heal those triggers and those wounds because no one else can do that for you. Triggers may feel like someone else shouldn't be assisting. And yes, others can help. But at the end of the day, you're the one feeling triggered. So it's your responsibility to heal those wounds. Others' behaviors may be wrong, abusive, harmful. So remove yourself because it's your responsibility to not stay in toxic environments. It's your responsibility to mend yourself because your issues are yours alone and no one else's to carry. And by the way, no one can heal you but you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish there was a magic wand and we could just all be healed and be mended and we can move on into this great world and great place. But unfortunately, that is just not what happens. We need to be able to look at ourselves and fix ourselves because there is no one else coming in, waving a wand and making everything go away. No one can fix you. Only you can. No one else thinks the same way as you. So, how are they going to know how to fix you if none of us even think alike? So, it is 100% your responsibility to mend those wounds because no one else can control how you feel but you. Now, things that can help are boundaries, play a huge thing in being able to heal those wounds and begin taking responsibility and not tolerating disrespect, not allowing things to continue to happen. And one of the things that I found that helps the most is reframing responsibility, which is owning your triggers and owning your healing. So when you say no one else can fix me, only I can, it's your nervous system. It's you. Take ownership of that because you're taking ownership of the trigger, the healing. You're taking ownership of who you are and who you want to become. It is your responsibility. But just because you're taking responsibility and ownership does not mean it it's it doesn't mean you are to blame that this has happened. You're not at fault for being traumatized. You are not at fault for being abused. You are not at fault for those things. And own that. Own it. That this was not meant for me. This is not right that it happened. But I'm going to own my healing and I'm going to own where I go from here. And I can't say that enough. Own it. Own you. Own where you're at. That yes, I have triggers. Yes, I have this. You are surrounded by dynamic people that are willing to support you through healing. Own it. Own your triggers. Know what you're comfortable with. Know what you're not comfortable with. Create boundaries. And when you are being triggered, grab your friend's hand and tell them what's going on so they can help you recognize maybe what it was that triggered you and help show you how you're safe. And so you can start working through those wounds. A great quote is, I didn't cause the wound, but it's mine to heal. I did not cause the wound, but it is mine to heal. When you think about that, it says it all. You are not responsible. You are not at fault, but you are responsible for where you're at and how you move forward and how you build. And I always say build or write a new narrative. There are huge reasons with that. And if you shoot over to my TikTok, I explain it a couple times on the shouldn't be in your vocabulary. I'll maybe reintroduce it, but you are the one who decides what you build and write from here. No one else has control over it anymore. It's all on you. So how you can start working through triggers is actually quite simple. I say that. It's simple in theory, harder in practice. But when something happens, ask yourself, what's really going on? What is this about? What happened? Why am I feeling this way? Is this about now or my past? Start questioning things, start challenging why you think this and why you're feeling the way you are so you can start digging in. Because you can't dig in unless you're challenging it. You can't dig in unless you're questioning it. You can also practice grounding, breathing, movement, tapping. There's naming 5 things, that you see, hear, feel, taste. You can do different somatic exercises to get yourself grounded back into where you are. Instead of being in fight or flight, you can re-ground yourself back in. You can also, what does this moment remind me of? Start journaling. What beliefs do I need to challenge? These are things that we need to do in order to start asking questions, challenging it, and so we can bring it to the surface, see it for what it is, and then allow it to heal and show your body, your mind, and your emotions, your nervous system that you are safe and you are no longer living in fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, or whatever it is. You no longer need the survival tool to live at the surface, but you have to prove it to yourself. Triggers don't stop instantly. They just don't. It takes time for a trigger to simmer down and to kind of reside and go away. So when you start working on this, please don't think that just because you started doing it that I should be good tomorrow. I'm so sorry. Doesn't happen that way. But the more you recognize it, and the more you tell yourself you're safe, and you allow yourself to calm down, and you're able to look around and see that you're safe, the more you're able to do that, the faster those triggers will heal. And I can say this for sure because I've said it before. I had a PTSD episode in 2021 that left me out of work for a while. I felt like I was going batshit crazy. I don't know any other way to say it. But when I went back to work, I had to sit in a cube in the back corner of the office because commotion around me would trigger me. I had an amazing work environment at the time. I cannot thank them enough for the amazing support they were while I was coming back to work from this debilitating episode. And my manager ended up moving me across from him instead so he could see what was going on with me. And I want to call out this manager. I don't even know if he's going to be listening to this, but his name is George. And I cannot even say enough on how amazing this man was for me because he would see that I got triggered somehow. And it was just someone going past me and I didn't know. And he would come around and be right next to me saying, "It's okay, you're safe." You know, like I'm going to cry because I'm so grateful for this person and who they were when I was still falling apart. And they made sure I knew I was safe. So when I say talk to somebody, it's because those people can save you when you don't know how to save yourself. And he would just do this constantly. And eventually I I was okay and I didn't get triggered anymore because I knew I was safe. I didn't have where I would go into sheer panic freeze mode just because someone twitched wrong. And I'm so grateful. So when I say you tell people when you're panicking or when something's happening, because these people, your friends, can be your saving grace and they may be able to help you when you don't know how to help yourself. They can remind you that you are safe. And again, thank you, George, for telling me I was safe when my body was telling me I was not. And it took work. It took people like him supporting me while I was mending, while I was doing everything I could to mend myself. I was in therapy. I was doing all the right things, but it still took time to silence those triggers and to make everything go away. It doesn't just dissipate overnight. So let me say this again. Triggers are your responsibility to heal, but you can have help. But they're yours to fix. And they're mainly there telling you danger is happening. And they live at the surface because of what's happened in your past. But as you heal those wounds, as you heal the trigger, they go away. And I want to say, like, if you're someone who's dealing with triggers and you're debilitated, I am proof you can get past them. You can heal them. You can quiet them down and you can live an amazing life where you can help others or you can live in your purpose. Do the work. Triggers are not something to be ashamed of. They're opportunities of finding the places you need to heal. So the next time you're triggered, don't just react and but get curious. Dig in. This is a time where you get to start to build something new. You get to build better because you know better. You know more. And I am sitting here and I am proof that no matter how bad those episodes can get, you can heal. You can be an amazing person in this world. So I do want to say thank you for listening and unzipping with me yet again. And don't forget to share, like, follow, send it to a friend that is struggling. But I am always here. You can find me at buildyou.us. You can also, I now have Instagram, buildyou.official. Find me. I'm here to help. Let me be a voice of reason that this world is not out there to hurt you, but you're here to be amazing. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.